sun, but it hides what's done when the day is done. Sheriff rides high on a promise he sold, but his truth's been bought and his soul's been told. He don't walk alone down the courthouse hall, got shadows that move when he makes a call. A whisper here, a favor there, and suddenly justice ain't nowhere. You can hear it humming underneath the street where power and silence meet. Oh, the machine don't bleed, don't cry, don't care. It feeds on fear and the deals they share, pulling every string in the dead of night, turning wrong to right, turning black to white. If you stand in the way, you'll disappear clean. Ain't no fighting back when you face their machine. Got henchmen lying like dominoes in a row. They don't ask why, they just go where he goes. A nod from the top and a life gets crushed. Another voice bared, another file hushed. They wear the loyalty like a second skin, trading their conscience just to fit in. Break a man down, call it law and order, build their empire at the county border. Every favor owed is a chain that binds, every truth buried buys more time. Oh, the machine don't bleed, don't cry, don't care. It feeds on fear and the deals they share, pulling every string in the dead of night, turning wrong to right, turning black to white. If you stand in the way, you'll disappear clean. Ain't no fighting back when you face their machine. The district attorney signs with a steady hand, but the ink's been stained by a deeper plan. Senators smile from the pilot stage while they trade your life for another page. County seats filled with familiar names, all tied together in a quiet game. Handshakes tighter than a noose can be, wrapped in power and immunity. And the victims cry, but no one hears. The truth gets lost in a flood of years, dragged through the mud till they break a bend, till the story twists and the lies all win. They'll take your name, they'll take your breath, dress it up nice and call it justice served to death. It's not one man, it's a web they weave, 1,000 hands that deceive, and every thread leads back again to the same old circle of friends. Oh, the machine don't bleed, don't cry, don't care. It feeds on fear and the deals they share, pulling every string in the dead of night, turning wrong to right, turning black to white. And if you speak too loud, if you're seen too clean, they'll grind you down in that cold machine. So the badge still shines in the morning light, and the town sleeps easy every night. But beneath it all, where the truth's unseen, there's a whole damn world run by that machine.
To deny an order is just to deny it. But what we really need to do is we need to ask the governor to change the order.
Have you seen these cameras around your neighborhood or on the news?
Automatic license plate reader.
Display reader cameras. The automated license plate camera.
The big concern, the camera is being used to track people and an invasion of privacy.
Unlike red light cameras or speed limit cameras, which are triggered by specific violations, automated license plate reader cameras photograph every vehicle that drives by. The cameras then upload the photos to a server, which uses AI to extract identifying information, such as license plate number, make, model, color, and even bumper stickers. Police and other government officials can then search for vehicles without a warrant. These cameras have been seen outside places where people would expect some privacy, including abortion clinics, gun ranges, churches, mosques, and immigration attorneys' offices. And police have been caught abusing these databases in various ways, such as stalking ex-partners, monitoring people for political activity, wrongly accusing people of crimes, and pulling people over just because police deem their driving patterns, quote, suspicious. But the Fourth Amendment doesn't allow the government to set up a surveillance state, which is why IJ is filing lawsuits nationwide to stop this and protect Americans' Fourth Amendment rights.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be provided are greater than the legal services of other lawyers. I'm Harry Steele. I'm a retired gentleman down in Daphne, Alabama. I'm joined today by Brandon Mosley, reporter and content manager at the Alabama Gazette. How are things in Moody today, Brandon?
Doing good, Harry. How are you?
I'm good. And we have a special guest, Dr. Stewart Tankersley, candidate for Alabama Attorney General. Should we call you Colonel?
Lieutenant Governor.
Oh,
Lieutenant
I'm sorry.
Governor.
Lieutenant Governor. I ran for Attorney General. It keeps sticking in my craw. Yeah. You're going to find out what being the candidate at the state level is all about, brother. Well, welcome, Dr. Tankersley.
Hey, thank you guys for having me.
So tell us all about your decision to run for lieutenant governor. It's my understanding that you are a physician, Army veteran, and, you know, we're not going to hold this against you, former member of the Alabama Ethics Commission, because you've been off of it since 2017. I'll give you that.
That's right. What led me to this point? Well, it's a long story, but I'll try and cut it short. I've always been interested in politics, or here in Montgomery, been paying attention to it. And then when Governor Bentley took seat, he asked me how I could serve the state. And I thought, well, Ethics Commission would be a good way. And boy, howdy, that was a long 4 or 5 years, because I learned a lot about how the things are organized. But remember that back in 2010, after the Republicans, before 2010, it had been, both houses had been Democrat-led. And in that one election, we won both houses, supermajority in both houses. And things began to change quickly. And Governor Riley called an emergency or a special session to rewrite the ethics laws. And they were the best in the country at that point. And then, so we were making big changes. And then when Paul Hubbard, I think it was around 2015, was indicted and went to prison. Mike Hubbard. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Wishful thinking.
And when I thought I was at our next meeting, I said, I don't think people know who we are, but they're about to start paying attention. And we had some great folks on the commission and making some good strides. And then they found out who we were. And I think it was in 2018, 19, somewhere in there, they gutted a lot of the laws. But in 2017, I got off. In 2018, a friend of mine asked me to run for State House. And I said, I got 3 kids at home and I want nothing to do with that snake pit. Then along came COVID, and I have been the leading voice of sanity in the state the last 6 years during that awful catastrophe that Republican and Democrat.
I'll measure sanity with you anytime on COVID. so this little podcast right here, if you try to find it on YouTube, we're buried, man. We are, because I called myself the control. I was like, hey, watch this. You guys all want to go get all that? And then what happened? I got told that if I wanted to come in the courthouse, I had to show them my card and had to subject myself to a IR body camera or whatever you call it. It was taking your temperature, but it was also a facial recognition camera.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, just unbelievable stuff that we put up with. And then our sheriff said, that order, don't worry about that. Y'all come on down to the beach. Well, Harry can't go to work. We decided who all the winners and losers were going to be. Everybody at Lowe's could go to work, and everybody in the construction business could go to work, and everybody deemed important. But I'll assure you, if you needed to get away from your abusive ass husband, it was an emergency. And it took 4 years for some of my clients to get divorced from 2019 to 2023 or something like that. Just unbelievable stuff.
Everything our government did, save two things. Everything our government did during COVID was wrong at all levels.
Now,
Now,
weren't you a doctor?
Sweep it under the rug.
Weren't you a doctor in the National Guard when all this happened? Weren't you?
Didn't
you have a seat at the table?
You're dang right. And I was in February. So it all started for me in February of 20 when my buddy Mike Rowland, who's a state surgeon, called me and he said, this thing's coming around. The governor's putting us on an unpaid working group for the state, come up with contingency plans. And that's what we should be expected to do. And I was one of 5 colonels. And I said, okay, good, Mike, we need to do 2 things. One is get as much hydroxychloroquine as we can for all the healthcare providers in the state. And number 2, we put the nursing home patients in motels because they're negative pressure rooms. And then when they fill up, put them in every other hotel room because they were all empty. The hotels and motels were empty. And that made good scientific evidence to me. And my very reasonable good friend said, no other state's doing it. And I said, well, good. We can get it and make it happen. No. And that should have been the clear warning to me that something was not going to be right in all this catastrophe. But everything other than Trump's in February when he said no travel from to China, and the other thing was the making of the monoclonal antibodies. But other than those 2 things, nothing comes to mind that the government at any level did properly. I mean, arresting preachers for holding, everything our government did.
Hey, remember the parents at the basketball games that didn't put their mask on?
Right.
And also, we're all 3 Auburn guys, right?
Right.
Okay. And we all 3 took chemistry, have some rudimentary knowledge of what we're dealing with, maybe not pharmacology. But Brandon knows how to keep animals alive. He knows a lot more about that than I do. And what's the downside of hydroxychloroquine, Brandon? Right. Can you OD it? You can't even OD anything with it, can you? Can you kill a horse with horse paste?
Safer, but hydroxychloroquine's been used in pregnant women and breastfeeding women. I mean, that's a telltale sign of the safety for decades.
Okay, but
ivermectin, it is the safest pill I know of. It's safer than aspirin or Tylenol.
So my favorite scenario is if we found a cure for cancer today and we could give everybody the vaccine, just in case, we would isolate 20% of the people in the medical field in case everybody falls ill from this thing, right? I knew when I didn't see any kind of control group that this thing was recklessly rushed through. And I'm watching nurses drop dead on television.
Right. There was a controlled group of 2 months. And then they did something that's reprehensible. They gave the control group after the 2 months the shots. But even in that 2-month trial, if you look at it, more people that got the shots died than the people that didn't get the shot. They got the placebo.
I know a lot of people that died who got the shots and are still, having. Well, my ear's been ringing. My left ear's been ringing since I got the second jab. Hadn't stopped.
Yeah, you need to detox, consider detox.
Well, whatever that means. With what? I mean, what's the protocol and how do I,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So Dr. Jordan Vaughn out of Birmingham, according to Robert Redfield, is the top guy on the continent for detoxing for treating vaccine injury.
Is he using Coumadin like the guy that's using the blood thinners? Is this
Well,
that
it's
same
a part
fella?
of it because of the
Okay.
microclots, yes, sir, as
Yeah.
well as ivermectin. So Peter McCullough and I are kind of, and Mary Tally Bowden, in a friendly competition to see who has the best formulas. You individualize it, of course, but ivermectin, you got to take probiotics because remember that the gut flora is where a lot of the spike proteins being made. By the way, I'm going to just take a side on this. If I could get every doctor in the country to watch one 4-minute video, it was the video where Senator, under sworn testimony in the U.S. Senate, where Senator Ron Johnson interviews Dr. Gary, I forget his name, in the U.S. Senate, a Stanford infectious disease guru. And what's so interesting at the beginning of the whole thing, Dr. Gary, I'm blanking on his name, but anyways, he is the most cocksure guy in the room. 3 hours later, he has got his tail between his legs because he is absolutely an embarrassment to our profession. But in that 4-minute interview, or when he's interviewing under oath, Senator Johnson has to explain to this infectious disease guru how the shots are designed. It is so appalling that this guy puts himself as such an authority figure. He doesn't even know the design of the fundamentals of this. And if I could get every doctor to watch one video, it'd be that one, because it's so appalling how my profession has just absolutely laid a goose egg in this ultimate Super Bowl of Super Bowls for our profession.
For the public, people that are watching and aren't familiar with all this, like you and me and Harry, who, you've lived it and we've covered it. When COVID came out back in March, it hit the U.S. really in March of 2020 hard.
Really, probably November of 2019.
Yeah, but 2020 is when
Right.
we all of a sudden our lives changed.
Right.
If by law there was a treatment for COVID, even if it wasn't a good or 100% or even 20% effective treatment, as long as there was a treatment, then you could not legally rush an experimental vaccine into regular use by the people.
You're talking about warp
Right,
speed.
that's right.
Warp speed.
EUA. That's right. Emergency use authorization required there not be a solution to the problem. I've treated 2,000 patients, at least 0 deaths. Our group of doctors, concerned doctors in the state that Dr. Vaughn and I are co-presidents of, wonderful group of people. I've treated 2,000, 0 deaths, 3 hospitalizations in 3 days or less. And I think back 2 years into it, we had treated 18,000 with like 25 deaths, and all but one had come to us after day 5. Eminently treatable. It is unbelievable. We lost our loving mind and let our government at all levels do this to us.
All right.
But the government and the media were repressing any knowledge that there was a treatment, albeit experimental treatment, that you and Dr. Caldwell and Dr. Vaughn and Dr. McCullough were working on and treating people with. Instead, people went to UAB and it's like, hey, you're either going to die or you're not going to die. And we can't do a lot for you. I mean, I'm not going to suggest how many hundreds of thousands of Americans may have died needlessly because we repressed the treatment, because our CDC authorities wanted to push a vaccine.
It's not a vaccine.
That is
right?
what happened.
Right, never qualified, wasn't submitted as a vaccine,
Yeah.
even though they call it that for marketing purposes.
And let me say, and that's exactly what another reason our channel got buried was. I said, a vaccine indicates that there would be some prophylactic effect at minimum, and it doesn't appear to keep you from getting the disease at all. And they said, oh, it severely reduces the severity of it, and I'm like, against what control would I ever know that's true?
Right, of course,
Because-
everything about it was a lie, and it had been planned for decades. That's not subjective. That's solid evidence. They've been planning for this for decades. And Dr. Redfield, who has come to see the light, he was the CDC director, the grandfatherly kind of round-faced guy with the mutton chops, if I remember correctly. He has come around to see the light. He and Dr. Vaughn are friends now and talk a lot.
How come everybody looks like either C. Edward Coop or the
Right.
lesbian that didn't survive the fire?
Right, exactly.
Whatever that last one was, the bald-headed
Right.
lady that was a man, that
Right.
was
Right.
I mean, I was like, oh my God, this is who's in charge. So I have
And Dr. Brian Christine out of Birmingham took his place and changed his name on the official photograph up there as the man that he is. I thought that was great. But all of this was insane. And the idea that our government could consider doing half of the things they did is insane. And so a couple of years ago, I was approached by a couple of people that are well known in the state and politics, and they asked me to consider running. And I thought, well, my time is come and gone. But then the more I thought about it and prayed about it, I realized somebody has got to come up with, has got to address how off track our government is. And this is the core. You had asked initially, sorry, it's taking out a couple of rabbit holes, but when I threw my hat in the ring, threw my $1,600 in the pot, the last day of qualifying on a Friday, on Tuesday night before that, there was a forum with the 5 candidates for lieutenant governor that had qualified at that point. And I went up to Birmingham and I sat in the audience and listened, and I was so saddened because they would not talk, they did not talk about the elephant in the room. To me, it is the lack of trust in our government. You cannot run a family, a church, an organization, much less a government, with the perpetual distrust that has been so easy to see the last 15, 16 years. And the easiest example of it is the Pew Research poll that comes out every year. And over the last 16 years, it's not been above 25%. And according to Pew Research, that's been doing this every year for the last 70, 80 years, we've never had this level of distrust persist.
Okay, so I got some more distrust to sow with you.
Yeah.
How in the hell is Dr. Scott Harris still the state health officer?
Well, according to our governor, he has done an outstanding job. And according to his boss, who is the medical association, it's made up of 16 members, and 12 of them come from the medical association. And then there are 4 others. But they have given him commendation after commendation, despite his obvious failures. And he has promoted such distrust, well-deserved in my profession. It is just appalling that he shows himself in public. But these people are sadly blinded to the truth. And the truth is that they have done immeasurable harm. And by the way, talking about the harm, it's hard to believe outside the injuries, the perpetual injuries that are going to occur from the COVID shots, what they did to our children. Do you know who wrote the policy for the schools for the Biden administration?
Don't know.
The NEA wrote them, National Education Association, of which AEA is a subsidiary of. I don't know if that's the right technical term, but anyways, they do the bidding for NEA here in Alabama. They wrote all of the school policies for our country. And of course, Biden and his ilk just rubber stamped it. But the people here went along with it.
That's right.
And,
I couldn't wait to get that time and a half or hazard pay that was coming. So let's talk about your platform for a minute, because I don't want to pigeonhole you as having this one issue. So you're talking about protecting medical autonomy and resisting federal overreach in healthcare.
Right.
You know, the thing that my greatest fear when the government got into the, health insurance business or the subsidy business was, man, everything the government touched just turns to pure manure.
Sure does.
The government composts everything down to manure.
And then
And
they break something and they get more authority like they're trying to do through COVID. And because they break it, they somehow or another get to make the rules to give themselves more authority to make things worse and worse and worse. And the stated intent of Obamacare in 2010 that they forced us into was to further the development of single payer health care. And what our supermajority Republican legislature just passed on Thursday in the 11.5 hour at the very last day of the session is absolutely ridiculous. Do y'all know about that bill?
Yeah,
was it
that's
the Gulf
HB
America bill?
605.
Which one, Doc?
I'm
It's
bad about
605, House Bill 605. It came to the Senate through the House Judiciary Committee. And what the backstory on it is very brief. I gave you the backstory on Obamacare. Obamacare is to bring about single payer health care. And there are two ways you do that. Number one is you destroy the middle class, which they clearly are on the path to doing. And the other one is you create an entity in a state or in an area so that it is the dominant monster of healthcare delivery. And so that's the backstory on how they're forcing single payer socialized medicine on us. The other part of the story is to this bill. So last July, when the big beautiful bill passed, he carved out $50 billion to go to rural healthcare. And Alabama got the least of its competitive of the other surrounding states, because the plan put forth to HHS by our state was so fraught with concern that it's a lot of money, but it's $203 million for 1 year, expected to be for 5 straight years, to build, to improve rural health, right? That's the goal. Well, the plan was so weak that we got the least amount of 203 million of the surrounding states. And this is all on Senate testimony from Senator Larry Stutz in the 11.5 hour, and they tricked him on it, which is just a sad thing. But anyways, they got it passed. The bill now allows, I kid you not, for there to be a monopoly. It gives the entity or entities dominance and monopoly, and it carves out exemptions, immunity to federal trade laws, monopolistic practices. And now they can coerce other small doctors in rural areas. They can co-opt them and kick them out of the ability to provide care for their patients through this program.
Okay, are we talking about like the Baptist health system or the UAB health system? Like who got made king of their little territories?
I have not heard, but I can guarantee you this: by far and away, of the dozen or so big mules that run our state, the number one big mule in their state the last 6 years clearly has been UAB and the hospital association, which has co-opted the medical association, the doctors. But the hospital association think UAB. And so my suspicion is it's going to turn out to be UAB. But they now can go into rural Alabama and soak up that $1 billion over 5 years and send it back to Birmingham. Do you think their efforts in rural Alabama, and monopolistically, that's such an agree. By the way, a quick story on that. Tennessee asked HHS to, if they could implement this type of rule, and HHS advised them to go to the Federal Trade Commission. Federal Trade Commission advised them against it. Yet Alabama puts forward this bill that gives monopolistic legal immunity from monopolies in the rural state. It is so egregious. And you and I'm very suspicious it's going to be helpful to the rural communities.
I mean, if Brandon and I decided to dam up the Alabama River and start making producing power, they'd come lock us up, wouldn't they? We love monopolies in Alabama. That's our
it's
favorite
true.
thing to do is to create a monopoly, so we only got to get our bribes from one place. Strengthen election integrity and public trust in state institutions. Yeah, okay. I mean, I get it. I don't know. The lieutenant governor just had all their power stripped, so.
Well, if they did, that's a very interesting point you make. That the timing on that, I think, is suspicious.
It
as
is
well.
so suspicious, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, there were people running
But
for
if you're going to take
PSC.
more responsibility, that means you get all the blame.
Well, the legislature's there's plenty of blame to go around, but there's 150 of them. So support small business in rural communities.
Well,
And-
wait, let's go
Yes, sir.
back to the election integrity issue briefly, if I could.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, if we've been asked this on the campaign trail several times, and I always start with the same question. Does anybody in this room really honestly believe that Biden received 12 million more votes from his basement than Obama received 12 years before? Of course, nobody believes that. So the system
During a
is
pandemic.
corruptible, period. Now, the three people I would encourage anybody to go listen to are Dr. Franks, then Professor David Clements, and he has a free YouTube video called Let My People Go. And then Dr. Jerome, Professor or Dr. I think JD, Professor Jerome Corsi out of New York, and his website, God's 5 Stones, and you spell out the 5. But it's irrefutable that the electronic systems can be corrupted. And so given that, and I was in Iraq on January 30th, 2005, when those people sacrificed their lives to go vote on one day, and they may remember they dipped their thumb in a purple.
That's right. They put their fingerprint on theirs.
They couldn't vote again.
That's some good integrity right there. I like that.
Yeah, but they did it under threat. And a side note on that was one of my platoon leaders was hanging outside. It was a beautiful day in northern Iraq, and he was hanging outside of his Humvee, and 15 yards away were two little girls kicking the soccer ball. Mohammedan sniper from the minaret hit them both in the head, killed them. And that was the threat those people were under, yet they showed up big and voted. And it made a big difference in local politics there. I'm not sure how much integrity is part of the big one of the government, the federal government. But the fact is that that's what those people were willing. They understood the need for a honest election, and they were willing to risk life and limb. What is going on in our elections? Clearly, the people don't trust them because only 18% of registered Republicans are expected to vote May 19th. The lack of trust in our government at all levels has got to be fundamentally addressed. So I wanted to bring up the election integrity. I hope they are. I like, same thing. I am not an anti-vaxxer. I am for science.
Sure.
But until they allow for there to be honest long-term safety studies on vaccines, for example, which we've never had, none of them on the vaccine schedule have any long-term data. Zero. That's sworn testimony, federal testimony by their side as well. But it's until we get, it's like the immigration issue. Until we build the border wall, it's going to be useless. Until we have all complete confidence that our election systems are not rigged, well then, what else is there we're really concerned about that we're going to fix?
Well, and one of the things that everybody discounts, and I still think is important, is that we are the United States, and all this department of this and that, there's a bunch of shit a bunch of Democrats created since I was born. I mean, the Department of Energy, the Department of Brandon, Education. What else have they created? What all did they create in the 70s?
Homeland Security.
Oh well, and Sadak, do you speak Russian?
I don't.
So you know what KGB stands for, right?
I used to. I don't.
Department of Homeland Security.
Oh,
That's why we never had one. And everybody forget. Yeah, see, we got to have internal security now to look at all our people because God knows who's here.
That's right.
Because we've had an open border all this time. It's just, yeah.
By the way,
I think
can I mention one thing on the illegal immigrants?
Certainly.
I
Whooping
think
cough.
that
Whooping
Say
cough
again?
coming. Whooping cough making a comeback. Go ahead.
Well, we got treatments. I have a very simple solution to the illegal immigrants. Those that have caused us unimaginable amounts of loss of money and treasure and time, whether it's schooling or the emergency room usage of the illegal, and of course the crimes and all like that. You know, there are sponsors that sponsor these people. They should be legally held responsible for what these illegals are doing. And you know who the largest sponsor in the state of Alabama is?
Nothing
The
would surprise
Archdiocese
me.
of Mobile.
Brandon, you Catholics,
Right.
man, y'all are the cause of all evil. I've been telling him.
You'll get a few federal dollars there, hey.
So
That's it, man.
any friend of Dr. J. Bhattacharya is a friend of mine.
He
Okay,
is a wonderful man.
he seems like a smart, thoughtful person.
Yes.
And I don't know if I just like his character he plays on TV or if he's really like that. But
He's genuine.
So,
Yeah, he's a real deal.
so Brandon,
Real deal.
we're gonna go through some rapid fire stuff here real quick. What is this? What is Wama Fest?
Louisa's covering that today in Tuscaloosa. They're celebrating 250 years of the Faces of America. I found it kind of interesting they decided to leave out the white man. We never found a lot in.
They got a little white girl in there. So
They even called a cute looking little white girl.
I think
But,
this is
yeah.
funny because I'm the only person. So y'all do know that like when DeSoto came through and they had the Battle of Malbilla, and one of the very few people to survive was a Jesuit priest who wrote all this down, and he says that Chief Tuscaloosa was 6'5" and had flaming red hair. So I think we, I for one have a real problem with the historical record of especially through if we go dig this guy up and do some genetic testing and I think that's what we ought to be doing around the 250th anniversary.
It's like the Pilgrims. The Pilgrims arrived in Plymouth and they probably would have starved to death, except there were Indians who had been to England, that little fisher guys or whoever who were out there exploring, trying to chase, the biggest fish ever, had been there ahead of the Pilgrims, taking guys back to England and gone back. And then none of that's in the historical record.
Right.
We would have known about it if the Pilgrims hadn't showed up. Hey, all of a sudden there's this cool Squanto guy that speaks English and, can show them what crops we need to grow and the growing season and what game to hunt. There's a lot that happened that's not in the history book. We don't know who it was that went over there and picked up Squanto and his friend and took them to England and how long they were in England and how the heck they came back. I mean, do you know what kind of a job that is as a mariner to cross the channel in the boats they had in like 1600?
Right. Well,
there could have been some dudes that, whose boat crashed and they're living with the Indians in Alabama.
Yeah. And to the core of what this celebration is the reclamation that is so overdue of the last 15 years of abuse we have all received from these radical entities who have made us ashamed of any part of our heritage.
That's right. Absolutely. Trying to.
When in fact, we have great things to be grateful for. And,
we're the Aboriginal
nobody's perfect.
people
It's
who built
absurd I have to
Stonehenge.
qualify.
Okay. yeah, I don't think we have anything to be ashamed of culturally. Oh, and by the way, we're the first people in history who freed the slaves and didn't subjugate them. I mean, if you want to talk about,
and we killed ourselves to do it.
well, absolutely, and a good example right now is the open air prison that is the Gaza Strip. I mean, you know, these people are all supposedly Israelis, and they're living in, Well, anyway,
we have so
Legally,
many
they're their own
blessings,
little deal.
things the Lord has
there are a
given
lot
us
of
in this
things that we
culture.
should be proud of as Alabamians, and it should,
Yes.
and culturally, we have nothing to be ashamed of. I don't believe.
And I'm not running away from it.
Well, let's talk about the Alabama political contributor here. We have Christopher's investigation into $4 million being funneled into Alabama by a gaming syndicate. Brandon, can you nutshell this for
Well, I
us?
started this investigation last Monday when we were getting flyers in our box where something called the American Conservative Fund was doing flyers in favor of a candidate in my district, in my home county. That candidate came to me Monday morning and said, Brandon, I don't know who these people are. I'm grateful that they're spending all this money. They've got YouTube videos about me. We got mailers in the box. I don't know who they are. Can you find out? And I started looking. I did an article, 1819, I think. They did an article on the Mo Brooks versus James Lomax race. They've taken the side of Lomax versus Brooks. Since then, I think we found out from, Miss Capecci that they're also backing Allbritton and Elliott down there in Baldwin County.
That's right.
I was with some folks on Saturday, and they're backing Lloyd Peoples against Jim Carnes, in the Vestavia Mountain Brook area. And I mean, I don't know how many races they're in, but Mo, after, suddenly they popped up and were doing mailers and videos in his district, and he did a big time investigation, and him and Christopher came up with this piece here where it's like $4 million. They broke all kinds of Alabama ethics laws and how you handle money.
That's right. Not that anybody's going to do anything with Allbritton in charge.
And the Sports Betting Alliance, have funneled $4 million into Alabama Republican primary races.
What's that cockeyed FBI director doing?
I have no idea.
He's sure not looking into Alabama politics and DraftKings. And so along those same lines, Brandon, did you see this tweet? Tribal entities which receive billions of federal dollars and aren't subject to any state or federal transparency laws spend millions in campaign contributions every election cycle and are the largest advertisers across the state's media outlets. And of course, this is Oklahoma, but
my former employer, Alabama Political Reporter, I mean, you can't go to an APR, read an APR article without seeing 2 or 3 ads for the Forge Creeks.
mm-hmm.
They're all over the place. I mean, I've been to a Republican, candidate forum that was sponsored by the Forge Creeks one time.
Well, can I make a comment about a 30-second clip about my perspective on gambling?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Chief Justice Tom Parker said, if you allow any form of gambling in your state, you automatically open the door for all other forms of gambling. Alabama is currently ruled by 12 or so big mules. One of them is the Indians. But if we allow any form, all of these international gambling cartels will come into Alabama and they will make Paul Hubbard and AEA of 25 years ago look like kindergarten.
Look like the Backstreet Boys.
They will absolutely dominate anything and everything, and they'll take all this money out of our state. And it's just immoral to do this because it's a real regressive tax on the poor. I am the only one firmly stating I have all objections I can to any form of legalized gambling. And plus, it's kind of moot because anybody can gamble on their phone at any time. But did you see the news that came out of Tennessee a month or two ago that showed, we got to shore up all this money we were expected to receive from lottery, and we only got 100 million this year, so we got to get those monies from somewhere else. So this idea that we must have gambling because it's in other states, it will be an awful decision for generations to come if we allow these international they will have more money than the other 11 big mules combined.
I guarantee you the Sports Betting Alliance and DraftKings would not spend $4 million, and they're just getting started. It's still a month until the actual primary.
I got something to tell y'all.
$4 million unless they were expecting to make $20 million. Just saying.
DraftKings is worth more than the LA Clippers.
Yeah.
Think about right, and the DraftKings is just one of 30 platforms. So each one of these gaming platforms is worth more than an NBA team. That's just to make your point. Once they start it here, they will have more money and power than all the school teachers and power company and Alpha and everybody else put together.
That's why Alpha opposed gambling.
So I want to talk, because you're from Montgomery, Tank 344. I like that. Above all, it's a leadership issue, says State Senator Chris Elliott, who, I'll assure you he's out of town before the sun goes down in Montgomery, bashes Stephen Reed over Montgomery crime culture and his failure to protect his citizens. Well, this is nothing more than a socioeconomic issue to me. This is where there's poverty. This is where there's crime. And, unless you have the tax base to put a police officer, 3 on every corner, you better change your demographics.
Well, the other thing is that I think the elections, as I mentioned earlier, are questionable if there's a problem with integrity in them. But the leadership style that he demonstrates in public forums, I've never seen it as an effective form of leadership style for long-term success. Now, he may be dominating in his little fiefdom and getting whatever monies he's getting, however he's getting them. But the leadership style in general is not going to work. He is absolutely antagonistic. I volunteered I took a halt on it, like I did when I was deployed the 3 times I was in the Army. But in the last couple of months, but I've been volunteering at the free clinic here for 25 years. And it doesn't matter, black, white, poor, rich, everybody knows there is a strong problem. There is a serious problem with integrity in Alabama's mayor's office. Nobody trusts him.
Well, that's a problem if you're the mayor of the state capital.
And I don't say this on the campaign trail outside of Montgomery, but clearly the lieutenant governor, who's not from here now, has been unhelpful in any way. But I think that with proven leadership with integrity, that there will be opportunities, being a homeboy here, I guess, being from Montgomery, knowing it for what it is and what we used to be like. I will be able to hopefully help Montgomery from the seat as a lieutenant governor.
So, another sciencey question. So, you're up on the legislature, obviously, and so this year, I don't know the House bill number, but we passed regulations saying that no state entity can regulate, let's say, mercury, parts per billion of mercury in drinking water, whatever the federal standard is. That's what our standard is.
Yeah, and the air, the coal ash products that are used in the bioengineering.
So now,
it's a real problem.
So now that that's in place, the Trump EPA says, yeah, you can brush your teeth with it.
That's not exactly what they said.
Well, they're rolling back the common sense
They're kind of what they're rolling
designation.
back is the Obama era and Biden era regulations and going back to the Bush era regulations, which
But when
I
you-
really
but-
have a problem with.
Yeah, but it's like saying, oh, but Pfizer, Brandon, you're talking about one of the biggest mules in the country.
Big act.
And everybody, you know, I have a little power company stock. I always have. But the way I look at it is the damn Southern Company comes in here and they, you know, the only way they're going to make any more power for all these data centers is to burn more coal. How else we going to do it? That's all we got. We're going to build 5 new nuclear power plants.
There's solar farms coming next to you.
Well, and get this, there's even more solar farms coming. I have I've found a couple of my little birds out there sent me some first rights of refusal on 250 acres on 225. So, speaking of, so I know that you mentioned that Governor Bentley appointed you, and y'all might be personal friends, or I don't know, but only a medical doctor could have convinced us to shut down our state mental hospitals. Okay, and this was a beautiful building. I haven't seen any drone footage or whatever, but apparently it burned to the damn ground.
Right. Well, I've got good news, and this is one of my one of the 3 main legs to the stool of my platform, which is I was recruited a year and a half ago to come up to DC and work for RFK when he got named a year ago as HHS secretary. By the way, side note, big news. People think of the deep state as DOD and Department or War Department and DOJ. No. In 2023, the budget for HHS was 1.8 trillion, and that for DOD was 900 billion. The heart of the deep state goes through the biggest agency in the world, and that is that's what people need to be aware of. But part of what I am doing, what I'm hoping to do, we've learned during COVID that it doesn't matter how good your science is, if you don't have political cover, it's not going to see the light of day likely. What I have been doing, I've been talking to his team up there, and they are putting together programs to push to the states. And I hope to be that political cover to help force through a lot of their objectives. And here's a clear example of what you're touching on, the mental health issues. They did a small study in one prison last year, and I think it was only a month or 2 long, but they gave one wing of the prison the same crap, and the other wing good food. Within 1 to 2 months, there was a 40 to 50% drop in violence. They did the same thing in the good food wing. They did the same thing in youth facilities, and there was a 70% drop. And here's why. The gut controls the brain largely. The gut biome, you've heard of selective serotonin release inhibitors, SSRIs like Prozac.
Yeah, sure.
Less than 10% of the serotonin in the brain is made in the brain. The majority of serotonin in our body is made in the gut.
You don't have to tell me. Look at me and Brandon. You think you're telling us anything we don't know?
Right. Well, most people don't know this. And so the gut controls the brain. And when we implement these things, like the SNAP food programs that they did a partial job of blocking a lot of the crap that the people get in SNAP, when we start educating people, and that'll be the big way we're going to do it, hopefully, is we're going to educate people on what this crap is doing to people's bodies, brains, every part of us. Why Alabama is one of the most unhealthy states, from 42nd to 48th worst health of any state. When we start educating people on what it is what we're doing to our bodies with the crap we're eating, I think people will respond positively. I'm not talking about forcing people, just educating people, because Alabama Department of Public Health has been public enemy number 1 clearly the last 6 years. They have failed us for generations in many regards.
All right, well, let's talk about the other issue that I think might be at play here, and the reason for the state of Alabama to say, no, you can't regulate something. How about the use of Roundup in industrial farming. I mean,
Serious problem.
that stuff's sure isn't good for you. And I don't know, my favorite thing in the world is when I, about late May, when I'm driving down one of these county roads in Baldwin County and I look out there and I see this wall of green corn and I know that Silver King is about to be ready. I know they can't grow that much corn without using pounds of nitrogen and all this other stuff, right? And I know they probably sterilize the ground with Roundup before they put the seed in, and then before they,
right.
yeah. I mean, that's part of the process. Anyway, it's been deemed a national security issue related to our food supply, and therefore the state of Alabama is not going to touch it. And we'll all be glowing in the dark or whatever the hell it does to you. But we're not even going to study
the biome in the gut. It changes the gut biome to cause all these problems. That's the main mechanism. There are other direct mechanisms, but that's the main mechanism.
Right. And anyway, I'm one of these people with celiac disease, so I've been dealing with inflammation, 3 back surgeries, and a partridge in a pear tree. But thank God, Brandon, after 158 years, the ban on home distilling has been declared unconstitutional. Did you know that George Washington was famous for his brandy? That he had a still at his home. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, the other thing that we've done this quadrennium, and hey man, I was raised here. Of course, I think nothing of seeing the 10 Commandments hanging on the wall somewhere. But in the failed state of Alabama, I just don't see this as a real priority. But hey, hopefully now we can get on to the business of governing instead of dictating. I agree. Everybody, some bitch, you need more Jesus. Both of y'all and me and the governor, right? I get it. But that's something that happens at home. Take your kids to church, Sunday school.
Well, I think
talk to them
taking
about
prayer and the word out of the classroom has yielded horrible results. So I'm all for it. But the fact is, you know how long it took them to get the law passed in the state legislature? UAB was the biggest opponent of it. It took them 3 years to pass the law that no one can do transgender surgery on children. 3 years. Yet it took Blue Cross 2 weeks to get a bill that allows them to put billions of dollars into a holding company that allows them to make and keep their own money because they're a nonprofit.
Hey, listen, man, I'm still upset. Y'all cut the end of my penis off. So I could just imagine how upset I'd be if I didn't, if at some point somebody made the decision for me while I was a juvenile, we're going to cut it all off and start giving you hormones. And then, one day when you're adult, who in the hell decided to do this to me? Dr. Kevorkian and, Uncle Johnny.
UAB was the biggest. UAB had was about to open up a big facility for all this, and they got shut down. But 3 years to pass that ridiculous law. I mean, while we had to have a law, but it took 3 years. But one of these big mules wants something done, they'll get it in 2 weeks.
So, one of my favorite stories is we've got a newfound wealth because of the Porch Creek Indians, and one of the jackpotters started their own an associated business is owned by one of the members of the tribe, and their first project was their first construction project ever was they got the bid to do $10 million worth of renovation work at the Fairhope Pier. Now, when you go down there, you can't tell anything has been done, except they were supposed to build this little ADA compliant, like little rail cart so people could ride from the top to the bottom. Instead, what they did was they went down a couple steps and they built a landing. And then they went down a few steps and built a landing. So let me tell you my theory of what happened here. This lady falls on the top step and she builds up so much momentum when she hits the landing, she just slides across it and continues her 150-foot cartwheel to her. They found her in her corpse in a pile at the bottom of the stairs. Wonder what happened. Anyway, I'm not saying that had anything to do with this or that, but anyway, Rollins, their next project right now, they're building our new district attorney and investigatory center right here on the courthouse square in Bay Minette. That'd be their second project ever. And of course, they lease their building from State Senator Chris Elliott, which keeps everything real cozy. So speaking of scientists, how many of these scientists are going to disappear before we go, oh shit? I mean, if I was Dr. Evil and I was building my own nuclear weapon somewhere, aren't these all the people I'd disappear to my island to put in my little slave shop down in the basement? Yeah. So I don't know. It seems like if the government's so keen on reading mine and Dr. Tankersley's correspondence, seems like these are the kind of people we'd be keeping up with, right? When somebody like this drops off the radar, like there'd be like a team of people that get in a black SUV and go look for them. So this kind of speaks for itself, and I'll just move on quickly because, this may be my line in the sand, guys. Have y'all seen the arch? Oh my God, it's so pure cheese. It's got golden eagles, and I'm sure we're going to work Melania's form into it somewhere. It's just obscene.
You know, touching on the idea of government, our national government, being in charge of our national security. If these AI data centers are because we're in an arms race in a way with China, if it's for national security reasons, why isn't the federal government paying for it in a large measure? And I don't think that they should. And I'm not saying they should, that our tax money should go to it necessarily, but these AI data centers are not safe to the environment around them. And they employ, the one down south of Montgomery that they're building now is going to employ, I think, 50 or 80 people for a huge piece of property.
Most of them security and people changing air filters.
Well, and then they're also going to, right, and then they're going to, the whole point is that the lack of, and our state gives them all these tax breaks.
Ding,
what about
ding.
the small man?
Now, so I thought this was pretty good. John Zoo says breaking enemy blockade by blockading their blockade. I guess you guys saw that we're blockading the Straits of Hormuz, even though they were already being blockaded by the Iranians. And last night, while all hell's breaking loose, I guess he's upset that we haven't invaded Cuba yet. But everybody seemed to be good and liquored up and having a good time at the UFC fight, while Hillbillyology comes back home with his tail between his legs after an 11-hour negotiation. We just couldn't meet in the middle with the people who we just killed. Everybody, you know how they have the designated survivor list where they take like the Secretary of Commerce and put him in a bunker during the State of the Union? Yeah, we wiped out everybody on that list. It's like, I can't believe these people aren't wanting to negotiate with us. But yeah, they sent him over there and he's on his way back now. And then, of course, we have my favorite person, Dan Bongino, GFC Row 2. And are y'all aware that the Ireland is the farmers and the truckers have taken to the streets to, I guess, protest the cost of diesel fuel? And so anyway, to show goodwill, they're flagging all the Guinness beer trucks through, and fuel and other things, and they're kind of deciding what's getting through and what's not. And of course, what do you think? How do we deal with Irish people with sticks in their hands? Well, we shoot them to death. So of course, the British government is moving in quickly, and there'll be a bunch of dead people. And yeah, they'll put this down quickly. The Brits don't put up with it.
Yeah, that's the reason why the Second Amendment maybe should have been the first.
No kidding.
Because if you're not going to have,
yeah, you'll walk your ass around out there with your shillelagh doing this. I'm sure that really scares the guys with M14s. So you got to love how NASA wants us to believe they had the ability to take super clear, high resolution video in outer space, but this astronaut recovery was done using a camcorder from '98. So you know how something's bullshit, Doc? Do you remember the
I hadn't heard
BP
any of
oil
this.
spill? Remember the BP oil spill, and they had the camera underwater? So if you go back and look at it now, the son of a bitch is in Technicolor. The feed they were showing us, they put snow in it and all this other stuff. No. There was a perfect feed. So I don't know. I don't know if you saw the hologram on the hat when the hat's they were doing the live broadcast supposedly from space. And this hat kind of floats into the frame and there's a hologram on it as it floats by. It says like NASA or something. Yeah. So anyway, whatever trickery was done, I'm not saying that we didn't send somebody slingshotting out into orbit and come back. But, you know, for all of the people who like to say, yeah, this is a bunch of bull crap. I mean, come on, guys.
Well, they turned Trump turned NASA from what Obama and Biden had done with the DEI project that it became, from a joke. And it seems like they're starting to do serious science again.
Yeah, well, I sure hope so. And essentially, I mean, we can call it whatever we want to, but, you know, we were developing rockets alongside our military. And, I mean, you know, essentially the Scud missile is von Braun's rocket. I mean, they're still using them in the 90s, right? Nothing wrong with the stuff we used to do. My question is why would we go do something that we've already done? You know, why would we reinvent the wheel? We built the space shuttle and then we scrapped it. The whole purpose was reuse. And of course, the guy that's in the private space industry, he's reused, you know, he's figured out how to land his damn boosters on a barge. I still think that's wizardry. Does everybody else? Every time I see that, I go, "Good God, how far have we come?" So, anyway, I certainly hope that you have a successful campaign. I, for one, I think I know what you know, having grown up in Montgomery, and I know you can't do anything about having some of the worst circuit judges in the state of Alabama, because I've practiced there. There's a lot of problems in Montgomery, but it's nothing that people working together. You know, that's the superpower of the human race is cooperation. And, you know, with somebody like you, I think you could get in there and do some good.
Well, I think that I missed probably the most important thing, and that is, once again, going back to the fundamental issue of a lack of trust. Most everybody that runs for lieutenant governor does it so they can just climb the ladder. I have no interest in climbing the ladder, because what they do in taking that perspective is they don't want to make people mad. So the big mules are like them and are willing to support them on their higher climb. But if you have a lieutenant governor who is the presiding officer of the Senate with a megaphone of a podcast like we have with Dr. Peter McCullough and others, I am committing to using that bully pulpit like nobody we've seen before. And that, I think, is the weak chink in their armor, is somebody as a presiding officer who's willing to tell the people what is going on, because I have no interest in climbing the ladder. That is a huge, I'm the only one in the race that takes this issue, and I beg the other ones to take on the distrust, but they won't do it. And I've got the only solution, potential help to that one main issue.
So, Stewart, tell us the name of your podcast and
yes,
the
America
platform.
Out Loud Pulse, America Out Loud Pulse. And we're on, Jordan Vaughn and I are on Tuesday, and Peter McCullough's on Wednesday, and a few other great people are on the other days. But that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell the people, and let the cards fall where they may. And I'm very concerned, like with every quadrennium, the first year is going to be a lot of nefarious things going on, because they're expecting the electorate to ignore what's going on 3 years later. But I think with my position, helping them, and leaders protect their subordinates. And there are some great people in the Senate. And I think the large majority of Republicans that run for office, it's like the doctors, 99% of them got COVID wrong. They bought into a bad system. And the first 2 or 3 years I was mad at them, but then I have great sympathy for them. I have sympathy for the Republicans that run with well intentions, but they get sucked into a bad system. and I want to work with them to help them succeed. And as the presiding officer of the Senate, I am looking forward to helping the conservative people, black, white, Democrat, Republican, do the right thing. And I think that that's going to be a threat. My being up there telling people what's actually going on, hopefully will be a part of the solution to the distrust that's so pervasive.
Absolutely. And we will certainly share a link to your podcast at the end of this, at the end of this program. Well, Doc, thank you so much for your time. It was great getting to know you. And, anytime you want to come back on, like right before the election or whatever, just give me or Brandon a holler. We'd love to have you back.
I look forward to it. And thank you for letting me come in today. And thanks for doing what you do.
Yes, sir. Thank you.